Namo So Ye, Namo Dhamma Ye So, O Namo Manju Ye, Namo So Ye, Namo Dhamma Ye So, O Namo Manju Ye, Namo So Ye, Namo Dhamma Ye So. Yudang duge yunala, yangzhu manu nani gyabzu ji, dagi chunye gibe zunangi, dola benje sangye zhuba zhuba. Yudang duge yunala, yangzhu manu nani gyabzu ji, dagi chunye gibe zunangi, dola benje sangye zhuba zhuba. Yudang duge yunala, yangzhu manu nani gyabzu ji, dagi chunye gibe zunangi, dola benje sangye zhuba.
All sentient beings have been our mothers, and all sentient beings have been our mothers for numberless times. They are as kind as our mothers of this life. Even though all kind mothers sentient beings want happiness and do not want even a small suffering, however, due to engaging wrongly in objects of abandonment and adoptions, they experience only the result of suffering. In our mind, sincerely generate loving kindness towards all kind mother sentient beings, thinking, how nice if all kind mother sentient beings experience excellent happiness. May all kind mother sentient beings experience excellent happiness. I will cause all kind mother sentient beings to experience excellent happiness. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so. Next, we generate compassion towards all suffering mother sentient beings. How nice if the body of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from all discordant class for accomplishing virtue, such as the harms caused by four elements, sickness, pain, etc. May the body of all suffering mother sentient beings be free from all discordant class for accomplishing virtue. I will cause the body of all suffering mother sentient beings to be free from all discordant class for accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so. We continue to think that how nice if the minds of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from all discordant class for accomplishing virtue, such as mental suffering, pain, anxiety, fear. I will cause the minds of all suffering mother sentient beings to be free from. May the minds of all suffering mother sentient beings be free from all discordant class for accomplishing virtue. I will cause the minds of all suffering mother sentient beings to be free from all discordant class for accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so. We continue to think that how nice if the speech of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from all discordant class for accomplishing virtue, such as telling lies, those negative speeches, such as telling lies. May the speech of all suffering mother sentient beings be free from all discordant class for accomplishing virtue. I will cause the speech of all suffering mother sentient beings to be free from all discordant class for accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so. In brief, how nice if the three doors of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from discordant class for accomplishing virtue. May three doors of all suffering mother sentient beings be free from all discordant class for accomplishing virtue. I will cause three doors of all suffering mother sentient beings to be free from all discordant class for accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so. Next, we generate bodhicitta by asking ourselves who should take the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and of lower realms. I should take the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and of lower realms. However, I do not have the ability to do so now. Who have the abilities? Those who have achieved the perfect, complete enlightenment have the abilities to do so. Therefore, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, by all means, I will become Buddha. One and the ultimate bodhicitta is one's mind becoming one taste with emptiness. There is both phenomena are lacking of inherent existence. These transform into a white five-pronged vajra on top of the mundis. Next, we meditate on emptiness. That I exists neither intrinsically one with nor intrinsically different from the aggregates. Thus, I do not exist intrinsically. Next is to conjoin these sessions with the practice of 6 perfections. The first one is the practice of generosity. And generosity is mainly about the mind of giving. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, whatever roots of virtue that I accumulate, I give it for the sake of all other sentient beings.
那第一就是讲的，去些那个面上不是，前边告诉，那另外个年轻人把生活的嘛就，这个的工作在这里帮谁也会去接头，所以呢，这自己就发现让你生活的什么是自己说的帮的生活是，另外个年纪帮就。
Next is the practice of morality. And morality is a mind of abandoning negativities. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, I will abandon my physical and verbal negativities so that they do not manifest.
那第一就是我是随便讲的，就是那人面上不是前边告诉，讲他理性了，刚刚考虑正把你爹说说的，当的人图你上的那个。 我这边是把我是随便我说的话，你是这个你就把当的人是这个就把呢，随便的是的是。
Next is the practice of patience, and patience is in the nature of undisturbed mind. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, whatever physical or mental hardships that occur, I will willingly accept it, to embrace it.
那第一就是我是真的是发现原来什么了，就是那个面上不是结巴了，结巴告诉别，给我的话的甚至两小时3年把做，是真的是要给我做一些嘛是不？我真的身上，面上不是结巴告诉，是给我的话的甚至2小时3年把做一通，等于真的上班呢，真的发现原来是有的是。
Next is to conjoin with the practice of joyous effort. And joyous effort is a mind enthusiastic for delight, or a mind that takes delight in virtue. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, I will take delight in accumulating virtue and working for the welfare of sentient beings.
第一个是就是那个面上不是前边告诉。 让给身体给你把考虑的了，自己的你把这了我说上帝就我是谁给你把考虑的自己的你现在就不了哇，我当然说身脸上不是只不过是身体给你把这了，你把嘛都，难道他哪样话都你都得把搞过是哇，点着嘛这个你把说你这个呢，这上帝就不是样的生活。
Next is the practice of meditative concentration. And meditative concentration is mind single-pointedly focusing on any of the virtuous objects. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, I will single-pointedly focus on the virtuous object and do not get distracted by conceptual thoughts or any other distractions.
第一就是我是小了就发现原来是小了就发现说我说，缺了南极去落水那个能就对吧？ 缺了能就是那是写了是比较强就有的，这里说当然说脸上不是基本上是吹的，也是的，两把线不去，朗读就是两把朗读就念就是两把的线没呢，这些都是发生的事情。
Next is the practice of wisdom, and wisdom is an awareness that thoroughly distinguishing the phenomena. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, I will properly understand the words of the teachings, the meaning of the teachings, and also the objects of abandonment and adoptions.
第一就是圣洁，他就这个上去就看到第一就是前面那就是就是原来彻底的就这圣洁的看到你啥都是不一样的就是。
Set good motivation. For the sake of all other sentient beings, I will become Buddha. In order to achieve this purpose, I will properly receive the commentary on the holy teachings, Lamrim teachings, and practice accordingly in order to benefit sentient beings.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Lamrim.
That long you want to much thing that I but show me the wa. Show me the teach go to home. This one. That was a day. Somebody show me that my teach thing was only about my teach share.
Yeah, first I will talk about the actual ritual. After that, I will talk about Tonglen practice.
Then you but show me the content of the hobby to do the content. When you become a sort of super, so go into the Tamojan content stage. That she did something to show me the same but some money. Say the Jabala was chanting Mato for the Matang when the Tanja is so Choaliat. What? Yes, somebody what Tanja was chanting. Chidang was missing something as a Cholan, but they were missing what. Since you think the Sanchi Kumato shower, and the message Jabatan Cholan, but they were your Malaysia. In another day, message Jabatan Matipe, don't be chanting Mato, but then you can see the tongue of me is a Tendri Tanja. Tanja the Jabata Cholan, but they were missing. Cholan, the shower. That data message, Najana, no Mina Mujala, I said, David Tanja. Since you tangible the Sanji to shower, number some chogi kill it, that's Sinji to Lajala. No need many tangible chip, yes, they may say that in the name. You see that, you see, Madame Shirwa. That may say that to be cheap was a time, then you got the body.
So the actual ritual in front of the master, the student should kneel down on his right knee, sitting in a crouching position is also appropriate. With palms joined, he should generate bodhicitta. My generation here is not the mere generation that thinks I will attain Buddhahood for the welfare of others. So to generate the mere mind generations, or to merely generate a bodhicitta itself that for the sake of all sentient beings, I will become Buddha. So this itself, one doesn't need to adopt it through the ritual. So, and rather, one focuses on that mind that has been generated and makes the promise, I will not give it up as long as I have not attained enlightenment, thus generate the attitude in reliance upon ritual. So if the mere generations of bodhicitta doesn't need, which is for the sake of all other sentient beings, I will become Buddha. So these mere mind generations or generations of the bodhicitta doesn't need to rely on the ritual. So, however, in order to make this promise, I will not give it up as long as I have not attained enlightenment, then this has to be done through the ritual or in reliance on the ritual. So if you are unable to train in the precepts of aspiring bodhicitta, you should not make this promise. However, everyone may ritually generate the mere thought, I will become Buddha for the welfare of all sentient beings, regardless of whether they are able to train the trainings of my generations or not.
That teacher was a message in larger than the one Malaga, message in larger than not which you want to be cheating and love us, and love us, did it, message in larger. Not be cheating, not be cheating, be cheating lava. That the one Malaga, that the Jenny before, the Dicker to share because in the part they are what you hear at sign, other such as your one, the Dick on my sharing. And I'm missing on the Dongle Swiss or enough. Message to what they said, Dick on the jail message larger than a loyalty. Did not be cheating and love with that, not be cheating upon with could be cheating and love with the answer. That the world must such in Hollywood, and that the country share me.
And so after one has adopted the aspiring bodhicitta through ritual, then one has to train in the precepts of aspiring bodhicitta. So regarding the precepts of aspiring bodhicitta, they are the four practices of abandoning the four black practices and or precepts, and abandoning the four qualities, for example. Abandoning the four black practices, and also adopt the 4 white practices. So regarding these, the white and the white and black practices, abandoning it and adopting it, I will talk in a separate outline. So this will come later.
단 주세라 간단 주세 총기 멤버라 간다 라자라 몰로가 렌 좀 많이 쓰고 다 간단 주세기 라자테 간단 데레 사tin 주제의 니제 이치셔서요. 단 주세 저것도 봐 라양 주세 네와라 다 간단 리에송고 라자테.
저는 주기다.
사tin 주제의 니제 이치셔서요. 이치셔서요. 다 데라로 예스고.
And in order to adopt the ritual of engaging bodhicitta, then one must train in the precepts. And the precept is the 18 root downfalls and 83 transgressions.
Bagi sodo. Da kanda ludu da tomene jibu domba choga mambo le sharu mo cheban de biru ne. Kanda sajja le tamba le jisu la je lo munina ta seje tsama. Kanda sena mawada. 와, 제가 먹을 거 무슨 데인데 바로 신발은 안지 로바는 너무 받대지 레비치 위해서 다디 디레션 간다 주시 총을 내볼라 간다 라저는 너무 위해서 그렇다 간다 와 저도 조지가 니지지 실수로 위해서 다들 이제 통일해서 되게 동바 처럼 뭐지라 종으로 제반대 말이지 야 세고진 하모 봐 야디 제가 하는 되게 말이었어 but Jabu Sajalma Dana
Therefore, it is incorrect to claim that there are differences among the many vow rituals passed down by Nagarjuna and Asanga in terms of whether or not it is appropriate. The advice of the King Sutra says that if one cannot train in the precepts of generosity and so forth, a great amount of merit is accomplished in mere mind generation. Taking this as its source, the first stages of meditation says, those who cannot train in the perfections fully in all the aspects should still generate bodhicitta thoroughly, conjoined with method, because the results will be great. So the meaning is, in order to adopt the ritual of engaging bodhicitta, one must be able to train in the precepts. Yeah, so the mere mind generations or merely generating bodhicitta itself should be accomplished because it will accumulate great amounts of merit, even though you are unable to train in the precepts of generosity and so forth. So this also mentions in the stages of perfections as well. So those who cannot train the perfections, those perfections of practice of perfections, so cannot train in that fully, then should still generate bodhicitta conjoined with the method, because the results will be great. So it is very clear that it is appropriate for someone incapable of training in the precepts of generosity, so generosity like those perfections, and so forth, to adopt the mind generation, but inappropriate to take the vow. So it is appropriate for those who are unable to train in the precepts to adopt the mind generations, but it is inappropriate to take the vow.
다 간다 된다들이 지원의 지원 시대다 간다 이비상 주진지 공부상 위자와 다비 지바의 지자와 지바의 지수의 위자와 때 같이다는 지시가 배좀 상비나자 사천번을 주 창주 선바도 소리에 생제하는 신로를 그래서 배셔와 생제가 배시가 다음에 시지 단단히 소리 이제 창주는 뭐 마토지 받아가는 나라도 창주 생제가 무슨 어디라 간다 단자들와 삼자들와 다 단자로 간다 미지 생제가 이제 다 간다들와 산지의 창주 선바도 생제가 나 신세 예시도 없다.
So the ritual for adopting bodhicitta is as follows. Here it talks about the ritual for adopting bodhicitta. So in this ritual, one will make promise to adopt bodhicitta or to generate the bodhicitta. So regarding the ritual for adopting bodhicitta, in fact, there is the ritual is mentioned in one of the texts. So it talks about the ritual itself. So here, the ritual for adopting bodhicitta is as follows. So all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas reciting in the 10 directions, please grant me your attention. Master, please grant me your attention. I, whose name is, so here mention the name. So by means of the roots of virtue of the nature of generosity, the nature of ethics, and the nature of meditation that I have created, caused to be created, and rejoice in the creation of in these lives and in previous lives, just as the previous Tathagatas, Arhats, perfectly complete Buddhas, and great Bodhisattvas thoroughly abiding on the great grounds generated the minds of unsurpassed, perfectly complete enlightenment in the same way also. So just like those previous Tathagatas and Bodhisattvas, the way they generate bodhicitta, generate bodhicitta, so in the same way also I, whose name, so your name, then from now until I reach the quintessence of enlightenment, will generate the minds of unsurpassed, perfectly complete, great enlightenment. I will liberate the beings who are not liberated, free those who are not free, give relief to those without relief, and cause those who have not completely passed beyond sorrow to completely pass beyond sorrow. So in this ritual, one makes promise to generate bodhicitta, to adopt bodhicitta.
다 장지 제보라 신지가 지고 시다 디바도 다 신지 마다와나 다와지고 마다와나 도와지고 우마시고 우이마지 무슨 나는데가 무슨 나는다와 지고 시다 디바도와 다디 마다와나 다와 지고서 된다데레 다 간다 다비 다 신지지 된다 산지지 공파 토네 된 참바의 제진소 참바의 제진로서 봐 주니지 치원에 시디의 니지 치원에 마다와나 다비다와 참 미스다데 와 마다와나 다비 마다와나 다와 지오 무슨 와 신제 와서 담을 신제나 신제 마다와나 다와 샤 지오 무슨 와 어디 다 간다 다 신제 탄지 때도 조베 산지지 공파 토네 된 참바의 제진로서 주니지 치원에 마다와나스 지가 시디의 니지니지 나 마다와나 다비다와 샤오 뭐지 이제 아무튼
So I will liberate the beings who are not liberated. So regarding this regarding this sentence, I will liberate the beings who are not liberated. So here, saying that, one makes promise that I will become Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. So, and I will liberate all sentient beings. That includes Brahma and Indra from the two obscurations. Afflictive obscurations and cognitive obscurations.
다 마두와나 도 지오 수도와 이 참이바도와 지이바 다 마두완세다 안다 뉘디르 도 장세 뉘디르 도자 시디르 마두이네 네란다 좀 하고 도와 뉘디르 도자 시디르 마두이 다 네란다 좀 바나 데 다도와 샤기 이스들로 도와 다 뉘디르 도자 시디르 마두이 다 네란다 좀 바나 데 간다 디발레 도와게 다도와 샤기 이스들로 도와.
So then the second sentence says, free those who are not free. So the meaning of this sentence is, I will free those refer to those hearers and solitary realizers, arhat. So even though they have already abandoned or they have already freed from the afflictive obscurations, however, they are not yet free from the cognitive obscurations or obscurations to omniscience. So I will free those hearers and solitary realizers, arahats, who are not free. So free, who are not free means those who are not yet free from the cognitive obscurations or obscurations to omniscience.
But 동의 우마시바나 우유와 샤오스다 동의 우마시바다 내소수지 신체서 간다 내소수지 신체와 다 내소수지 동의 우마시바 내소수지 신체나 다 동화 대단한 우유와 자기 있어 다 간다 간다 좀 비상식 같은데와.
So again, then give relief to those without reliefs. So I will become Buddha, and I will give relief to those without relief. So those without relief refers to those sentient beings experiencing sufferings in 3 lower realms. So I will give relief to those sentient beings in the 3 lower realms.
That's 지가 somebody 간다 시바니 요스 냥을 만다 요스 냥에도 다 간다 냥데 마토비 다 간다 신체나와 다 신체나 다 간다 다 조비 상지지 냥데라 조비 상지지 공부하는 게 제일 미스 필요와 간다 조비 상지지 공부하는 게 제일 미스 필요.
왜 가서
상기
저기 상기
세지야지 수단지 상지 공부도 샤오 세지여와 그 상지 공부도나 그 간다 냥데 마토비 뜻인지 강가도나 그 상지 공부하는 게 제일 미스 필요와
그거 지금
미스 이제 냥을 지워 냥을 다와 지워서 뭔가 냥을 다와 지워 상지 공부 니비 냥데라는 거 지금 미스 필요 니비 냥데.
And cause those who have not completely passed beyond sorrow to completely pass beyond sorrow. So those who have not completely passed beyond sorrow refers to sentient beings who hasn't achieved the nirvana or who hasn't passed beyond sorrow. So and then I will place them in the state of completely passing beyond sorrow, which is the state of enlightenment, the state of non-abiding nirvana.
다 대바는 맞아 다 내송도 있어야 다 내송 바바는 장주지 바치스 하는 거 제대로 와 다들 가는 거서 법이 여기 왔다네 이거 와 법이 여기 왔다 맞아 로비 무서워서 로비 여기 왔다네 또 간다 되고 와 제대 제대로 와 제대 다들 올 말로다 뜻바도 내송 다 내송 바바는 나지 장주지 세트 바치스 사이에 지와 점이 좋아 근데 로비 지지스 여기 사가 중요한 말이나 로비 여기 누구에 안다 just 제대로 로비 만나 로비 여기 온다나 다 제대 제대로 해서 와 제대 제대로 해서.
Yeah, then you say these 3 times. So even though it is not clearly mentioned that however, it is necessary to repeat these words after the master in the refuge ceremony and in this ritual. So here is in the occasions of in the occasions where the master is present. So this is the manner of adopting bodhicitta in the presence of a master. So you should repeat after the master this ritual or these words.
다들 간다 다 로비 많이나 가서 다 나지 가서 다 다바리치 로비 라고 말씀을 드리마되고 다 상지 실수만 한다라고 했었지 파시카고야 지고를 와 다 로비 보시나 라고 로비 여기 온다는 다 로비 많이나 상지의 실수 상지의 실수만 한다라고 했었지 일이 간다와 디바 치고야지 다 치고는 다 간다 좋아게 지고라고 와 디치니 다 간다 chan지 공간 쓰는 와
Lama 공수적이 직접이나
상지의 실수만 한다라고 했었지 들어와 상지의 실수만 한다 빙하서 조가 생지 조가 시트코는 요래 인지 저도 돈발에서 무슨 요래 가다 로베 요가 기대치에서 로베 매는들이 제거서 아주 세시기 아주 조가 미세들이 대리 요아 뭐 무슨 요래
아주 유선 말이
요리인지 무슨 요리요 요리 원다 창당 요 생지 돈발에디 가서들이 미세 조가들이 대리 지금 모스카인지들이 요아 근데 무슨 요래.
So so if Atisha's mind's generation ritual says what to do if we cannot find a ritual, so then the ritual for generating bodhicitta by oneself in the absence of a master is as follows. having brought to mind the Tathagata, Shakyamuni, and all the Tathagatas of the 10 directions, prostrate to them, etc. So when the master is not around, so and yet we need to take the bodhicitta, then we replace this master, please grant me your attention. So you replace this word master with all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions.
That's somebody can the somebody got a loving to the missing legend. Yes, legend was a missing legend. That you call the Shibanaji. The old man gave them the Jiran Jima Hashila. They can't appreciate that. Kirby Chicken legend, Dima the Yama, missing legend, or not pitching the coffee chicken legend yet.
So then the concluding ritual, the master should proclaim the precepts of the aspiring mind to the students. So regarding these precepts, as I mentioned just now, there are 4 black and 4 whites. This I will mention later. Yeah. So also in previous also Jaya also asked before and reminded Gishulas that regarding the Tonglen practice, then the one part of it is is not clearly mentioned or explained. So so regarding regarding this Tonglen practice, so now I will give explanations again.
The someone with another room temple who choose to choose or that's someone was it not sign them Jewish house in the city. Not only the music Georgie room temple, who choose number is number. Chidan was only the lady. We hajang the piano of change.
Yeah, so regarding this Tonglen practice, passed down by Lama Atisha to Drundenpa. So it is a very secret practice. And this practice of Tonglen was passed down by Lama Atisha to Drundenpa in a secret way because of its passed down to Drundenpa in a secret manner. And this Tonglen practice itself is extremely beneficial. So even there is a statement regarding this Tonglen practice. So you should treasure these secret instructions.
doing that to Shimona. The Shetato Kuji Kumachi and the Obomo, Suachila, and the Kuji Kumachi and the Obomo like Chiamas, the Machete Kukuma, Kuji Kumati, that
Zawos,
on the Obomo, the Ipomo. The Ipomo like Chiamas, yes, then the Ipomo like Chini and Zaipumosa and Zaosa Tanda Karzna, two Puchina Shindua, Pumuchina Mashiba, Dingi, Indicila Kanda, Zaos in the Dua, Zaosa de la Puchina Shindua, Pumuchina Machinia, say Dingi,
Pukina de Shido,
Puchina Shindo Sema Devachi, Pumuchin Mashiba, Yasamo de Tuas, Zaosa de, what did it? That indeed, Kanda, the Kujingama de Tanda, Kujingamata, the Timba Kujingamachi, Takanda in the old Chiva. The Chiva de Taco, Burua. We did Tacola, me in the old Mosita, Zaipumo,
Buri,
Kupurua, Timbaki Kujikuma, Kanda, Burua.
Buri, it is some of Pumon,
no one's all a chill, that shield Puji in the shield of Jenny. Then Zai Pumos in Mita is that. Could me Pumota and Zai Pumos. What I mean Zai Pumota. Then Zai Pumotana, that come Manchiva, Pumuchin Shiva, some year did to me, which in the hill of years of Tanzania.
Zawas at the Amodi, Zawas at the Puki Wina,
Wishindo. 신호 그래서 나오대.
보이나 시에
보이나 시고 말해서. 다 뭐시었어. 다 콜 붙지로 와. 다 붙지서 미도 부모다. 저희 부모세. 단 저희 부모세 미다오디 다 콜마시바야. 대화 해서 와. 아무 뜻이고.
So regarding this Tonglen practice, then it is very beneficial even we only do this Tonglen practice in visualization. So regarding this Tonglen practice, then I would like to tell you a story about it. So previous reincarnation, previous lives of Buddha, then Buddha was born as a Zawe Pumo. Yeah. So was born as a male, and however this kind of baby. So if if the baby is born as a male, then they will die. So if they born as a female, then they will not die. So and yet the previous lives of Buddha then was born as a male. So in order for this baby to survive, then the previous lives of Buddha was given the name Zawe Pumo. So Zawa said Zawa means those if they were born as a male, then they will die. So if they were born as a female, then they will not die. So then that is the meaning of Zawa. So then Zawe Pumo. So Pumo means female or lady. So because the previous lives of Buddha was born as a male, right? So then in order for this baby to survive, then he was given the name Zawe Pumo. So he was called the Zawe lady or female. Then and because of this, then the previous lives of Buddha survived.
단 저희 부모들 다 간다 거미 저희 부모 다들 다 거 마신이 다 간다宣布되는 야 전부 차와 다 전부야 찬다 아마딜라 아마티페 자 전부지 시부 지도샤니다 아마도 그 대마도 모두 그 대마도 내와 진짜 다 아마디 자 전부지 에 시부 배 지도 전부지 가다 그 전부 차사에 가라 단 간다 엄마가 유시 janso나 간다 노블레라서 와다 중고치기 내가 누가 들이 무슨 도와 응마라고 대가 janso나 간다 주저야도 노블리로 어다들이 그 janso나 간다 노블레가 누구지 다 아마게 로마치 까와레스다 한번에 까리다 춘에 라마키네 다 아마 누구 간다 공부 코디 도르스 다 누구 간다 까마투니
고 간다
누구 간다 누구 간다 아마 그 로마치 야 까와 만도스다 춘 그 지도 정보지 부디마도 메디 다 코라 미야 까나 까마도 바치 다 아마게 까노까 아마 누구 간다 공부 코디다 공부 간다 샤는 도르스
지도전에 하고 강바샤니
야 까디 까마도 바치 충전내는 거 가나 거 가나 깜박 그래 로자레서 아마
고 간다 강바샤니
아마 두시야 까라 보통 로마지 바치 로마지 바야 까디 다 코는 까마도 바치 코만 추네 거 가나 아마 코나 깜박 올지 그 깜박 가나 칸 로르다 간다
강바 간다 고 간다
아마 바까라 까마도 다 아마마 구구치네 까마도 그 깜박 거 가나 샤네 코 콤바 도스 단도다 아마 kumba go kan sha den do re se
kamba ro ya la
kamba khora ke kamba
su yi kamba
din zawo
zawe bu ni kamba ama yi go la sha ji
go la sha ni ta ama go na la ya ka ba re ta ko kamba na no shilo ma tan ro wa ta ama go na de ne ya ndo ma chi ya ka ta kan da ro mo gus ta janso na ndo de shi do re se be ne ga chen bo re se shi do gus ne ta khon ni go ma khala ma ni ba che 야 까디 만 충자진 다 아마 마린 다 아마 고간을 컴바산 된도래서 다시 양손은 로저리스 다 간다 아마 하고서 고간을 컴바 쿨리도 거 아마 마리네 아마 까마디
깜바디
깜바 고간을 쿨리도 해서 다 고간가 아마 고간 깜바 쿨리도 다 네가 좀 사사라 지난 어디 다 까마선 도래서 양손은 다 담고 뒤치는
Marine di Kambadi Kazayang. So this Sawe Pumo. So Sawe Pumo is the previous lives of Buddha. So this Sawe Pumo, then he survived and then he had grown up. So because of this, his mother only had this child, so only had one child only. So he take care and cherish this child very much because she only had this one child only. And then in the past, then those in the past, then they will go to oceans and then to take those precious stones or those precious jewels out of the oceans. So in the past, there is such traditions. So this Sawe Pumo also wanted to take the precious jewels, and Ama, because his mother was cherished so much of her child, so mother try her best to stop Sawe Pumo from going to taking the precious jewel, because saying that, oh, if you go then you will die, because her mother really cherished her child very much, right? So however, no matter how his mother tried to stop Sawe Pumo, then Sawe Pumo still insisted to go to the oceans. So and then her mother couldn't stop, and then was fall down on the floor, and this Sawe Pumo went out from the house through, because her mother fall down already, right? So her mother was lying on the floor, and then Sawe Pumo went out the house by crossing his mother's head. So he was lying on the floor, and then her mother was lying on the floor, and then Sawe Pumo went out by crossing the doors, by crossing the head of his mother. Sorry.
어디다 아마 이거 가나 감바 푸니로와 아마 이거 가나 감바 푸니로다 아마 이거 가나 감바 샤스나 페 가나 그전 답에 쉬부지 수수 네가 침마 사사로 하다 다 잔소 강조에 갈다 잔소 능마 주진지다 주진지 페 미세 야부들이 페 힘다 해도 하고 주진한테다 잔소 지었다 쳐 발라고 주지 토르스 다 주지 찬 잔소 지가 레오디 다 주진 토르와 다 주진 토르데 다고 주진이 힘 수치라 간다 수치라 주네 다 린제 현다지라 봐 수치라 레바레스 보다 다 주진 창조 수치는 다 주진 토르와 주진 토르데 다고 주진이 수치라 다 린제 현다지라 레바레스 다 린 현다지라 린제라고 지라 레 다 린제라 지레네 대배 셰마 탕바 린제들이 강바 디제 강바 짜고 이제들이 연조지 짜라 이 짜르들이 이 짜리 안로에 갈라 대배 깨다슈 오르세 깨다더니 깨제는 등에 깨라고 시고군 때고 짜르 나노야 미타한도 다 짜르 나노야 미타한도에 갈라 다 미지진 거라 짜고 콜로 뜻을 뭐 레바다 차스 토르스데 짜고 콜로 세세지와 뭐 가는 틀이 아코 나와 함산에 거야
주네 짜기 콜로디
원치네
고라
땅콜로 꼬라지네 코 레바다 차스 토르 뭐 미지라 따뜻한 토르 따코 내 가르사와에서 그 가리나서 그 좋았다고 따뜻한 야와라 해도 그 땅에서 야와 가지고 좋아 이게 때코 좋았다데
예송을 기자 지어라
미들 기자 지어라
미들 등에
등에 놓는다 딱 기자 지어데 딱 미들 레사와에서 미 레사는 제부니 바레스 땅아 제부니 땅인 제부 마미 마조 바가 시야요 말스 간다 시투고 말스가 제부 냥고레스 티처레 가르사와레스 니 아민고 칸 깜바샤도 도레스 디기는 제부드레스 에코 땅이 아민고 칸 깜바샤사 땅을 제부 미제로 사 두상 빌레바레스 다 담보디라 망차사.
Yeah, so because of Sawe Pumo crossed her mother's head, then it become, the negative. He had accumulated big negativities, big negativities. So then Sawe Pumo went to the oceans and then take a boat. So in the past, then the boat is not made of metal or anything, right? So it's made of wood. So this wooden boat was destroyed by a great wave, and then he pulled onto a piece of wood, and he reached an island. So he hold on to a piece of wood, and then he reached an island. So when he reached the island, then he saw a house made of iron. So then he went near the house, and then he heard someone was lamenting or crying in sufferings. Then was crying in sufferings. Then he looked inside the house, and then he saw a person was his head was on top of his head there is a metal wheel, metal wheel or iron wheel. It was circling on his head, and because of this, then his brain and his blood all oozed out, then all blood and flesh and the brain all oozed out. So that person in the iron house were experiencing such sufferings. So then this Sawe Pumo asked the person who are experiencing the sufferings, so what happened to you? So then the person said, I am experiencing my ripened results. So because I have accumulated the negativities, now I'm experiencing the ripened results. So until this until this fruition is exhausted, I will not die. I will continue to experience this suffering. So then Sawe Pumo asked the person, what actions have you accumulated? Then the person answered, because I accumulated the negativities of crossing my mother's head.
단자 이 부모겠다. 코로나 주학기네 잖아. 예쁘게 가르쳤으나 남지 좀 가르쳤다. 안다고 아민고 강아 강바샹이 난도 그랬어. 그때 남지 제비다 나가 남지 제비도 미고 그랬어. 대 안자이 부모 땅이 샤서 땅 알은 제비도 보고 이제 상도 커바나시 나가도 자치 타오해서 가도 자게 첨부 쉬고 있다고 때 민지야 따오데 때 장은 코로 가도 말리고 있었다 간다. 장콜로 또 말리고
자지
어디다 저기 미야 따이가라 때 장은 코로 가도 리고 다 가도 리고디 땅을 남진 제비들 리에서 다 코랑 골마 투도 저기 땅 남사고 다 두산시니 다 미기 골라 아민고라 컴바시는 인내바 단 제비 리고 다 나나 시페 신체 마부지 아민고 강라 컴바샤 차이지레스 다 컴바샤니 미 마부 요지레스 로 컴바 아민고 강라 컴바샤니 다 코도 참하기 등엔 제비를 다 단디 가서 이 고쳐 봐서 나는 이거 쉬었으니 에다디 두산시 바리스고 마사고 짜고 콜로도 레바 강라 고 강라 투도 제오디 다 엔로아스 지 마부지 아민고 강라 컴바샤니 마부 요지레스 다 코도 참하기 제비 참하다 다 나도 털라 이거 쉬었어 난 영화 쉬어서 도스 똥내고 다 간다 다 동네 렘만 간다로 와난 너희 동네 렘만 뭐 도스 레오데 랑사 되게 니가 어디 콜로 파리야 너 디바 다 살았어
저기 콜로야
콜로 파파니 소소기 똥내기 간다 니도 제우디 동네 니도 제우디 동네 레야 니도 제우디 왜니서 동네도 많아가지 디바 다 살. 디바 타와에서 다 돈이 배에 들리지 간다. 그래서 니도 지야. 들리지에서 간다. 당가서 등을 내나 빼서서 등에 녀망 되는데 들리지어라. 다 등에 내야 등에 녀아 말에서서 등에도 파 매버스 다는 거. 등에 디바 다는 거.
네, 등에 출래야 돼. 렌투 말이 되네 디바 다.
디바 다는 거 간다. 당가서 같이 리치페 담보 등에 내야 서서 신앙 들리지 거서. 그 등에 전부 지내서 나라 등에 누나가 가까이 땅에 가서 주상 들이 오서라. 당외에서 등에 내야 니도 제우디 소소원이 등에 오고 막 소소 등에 파다는 등에 매바자. 등이 니도 지버려서 다데 니도 제리페 당 나라나시 아미갈 이거가 깜바샤네 마부 요지레스 다 코도 참하게 단 제부 따따리 날 고쳐 봐쇼사 날 미고 쇼사 데 등에 내야 다 간다 돈이
Yeah, so then the person answered Sawe Pumo that I have accumulated the negativities of crossing my mother's head, right? Then Sawe Pumo heard it, and then he was shocked because he also accumulated the same negativities. So while thinking about this, or thinking about himself who has accumulated the same negativities, then he heard a great sound from the sky, and then he looked up and he saw the metal wheel was coming down. to his directions. So then he thought that, oh, my karma has already ripened now, right? My karma has ripened. So so when he thought about this, or my karma has ripened, then he thought that Sawe Pumo thought that. So there are many sentient beings. There are many sentient beings who also accumulate the same negativities, just like mine. So, and they will experience the suffering ripened results as well. So may those sufferings be ripened upon me right now. So may my experience of suffering serves as it. May my experience of sufferings be sufficient. Yeah, may my experience of suffering be sufficient. So means that may their sufferings be ripened upon me right now. So after Sawe Pumo generated such attitudes, so in fact he was practicing taking the sufferings of others. He was practicing the Tonglen practice as well. So because of generating this powerful strength of mind, or this strength of attitudes of Tonglen, then that metal wheel was flying off. So then it was flying to his directions, right? Then it was coming to the directions. However, Sawe Pumo thought about this. May the sufferings of those sentient beings who accumulated the negativities just like mine be ripened upon me right now. So because of these generations of these mind generations, then that metal wheel was flying off, and then his negativities was purified. So so regarding this taking the sufferings of others, so some people might have fear of doing such practice, taking the sufferings of others, because the person are experiencing such great sufferings. How could I bear such sufferings? So sometimes we will have fear. So in fact, when we do this Tonglen practice, and when we do visualizations, we visualize taking sufferings of others upon oneself, right? We cannot, in fact, we cannot actually take the sufferings from others. However, just by this visualization itself, it can purify negativities extensively. Yeah, so because of mother's great kindness, so if we were to create any negativities in relation to our mothers, then that negativities will become a great force. So like for example, saying bad words, or saying harsh speech, or even crossing mother's head, etc. So those negativities will become a great force. So because of mothers being a kind object. So later then we are going to talk about remembering the kindness of mother, and also to wish to repay the kindness. So even though we have already gone through this, and however, we will revisit this topic again later.
Da jinzi de jun, xin jinzi de yundi, da dingi basang takanda. Tongli goya la. Da jinzi de jun, xin jinzi yundi, dingi basang shibuchi. Tambu dingi basang tangwa.
So even though I have mentioned the practice of Tonglen in brief, so whoever following the explanations and do the meditations accordingly, then definitely the benefits, one will definitely receive the benefits. So regarding this dawning practice, then I would like to explain it again. So in order to meditate on dawning practice, then one must think about or contemplate the faults of self-cherishing, and also one must contemplate the benefit, the qualities, the good qualities of cherishing others. So you must think about the faults of self-cherishing and the good qualities of cherishing others in order to meditate on dawning.
다 랑지번지 비원데 다 동안 소파치야 다 랑지번지 비 원데 사다디 상당 그래서 등에 나서 다 랑라카나 문제 바 동안 나 소파 나서 유연데 다 랑진지 좀 랑진지 좀 그래도 사든 진지 되게 얘기 상당 그래서.
Yeah, so regarding contemplating the faults of self-cherishing, then you can think about think about the faults of self-cherishing by thinking about the sufferings oneself is experiencing. Whatever sufferings that you experience, then all these are the faults of self-cherishing.
다 제제바 소마나 다 윤제 탄진 주에 시 신의 제반 좀 윤제 탄진 주에 시와 다 제제바 진이 다 진지라 다다와 제제바서 다 진지라 다다 다 진지 윤제 때는 때 신지 대체 그건도 사상을 당고다
진진이
제제반 진이 때 신지 신지 대체 그건도 사상을 제고서 다 진지라 다다네 제제바 진비 윤제 때네 때 신지 대체 그건도 사상을 제고서 저는 디지털 사례
Yeah, so and then you think about the good qualities of cherishing others. So basically, cherishing others is the foundations of all good qualities. So you think about the faults of self-cherishing, and you also think about the good qualities of cherishing others. So having thought about the faults and the good qualities of self-cherishing and cherishing others respectively, then you see self-cherishing as the enemy. You recognize the enemy, which is the self-cherishing, and then you think you also seeing the good qualities of cherishing others. Therefore, I must work for the welfare of sentient beings. So because of this because of seeing the good qualities of cherishing others, then one must work for the welfare of sentient beings.
다 진지라 다더니 해 진지지 인데 상빌로 지비도네 된디 산에 내가 신지 동안 탄지비 다게 된도 랑데 다다랑 앞에 장지 신지 탄지 동안다 자와 지비도 대화다 기워서 파땅네 다다랑 신지 탄지 대화다 된바기 자고 서로와 등에 된디 산에 간 신지 동안 탄지 다게 된도 랑사 된디 친구다 근데 현재 때 제국도 상고로 다기 랑진지라 다티 현재 예 진지 연계의 상부터는 현재 때 제국도 상에 현재 동안 단지 다기 된 랑도 다기 된 랑도 다다라 신지 단지 동안다 잡아 제국도 대화 대화서 파 땅에 다다라 신지 단지 대화다 된 제국도 상호 데이터 비터네 더 리라나 비치디 되게 되는 말
And so having seen self-cherishing as the enemy, and having contemplated the good qualities of cherishing others, that I must work for the welfare of sentient beings, then one thing that I must take upon myself all the sufferings of others. So think that I must take upon myself all sufferings of all sentient beings, so that all sentient beings be free from sufferings, and by giving my virtue to others or to other sentient beings, then may they experience the sufferings. So while thinking in this way, then one sit in the positions according to the 7 meditative posture of Vairocana. So while having this in mind, then one sit in the manner according to 7 meditative posture of Vairocana.
다 간다 대단 정바이나 소소 그냥 강바다 야 수보라 강에 매바이나 비가나 비치리게 지내슈 다 소소 수보리야 강에다 강바다 소리야 강에 여바이나 소소 대단 가리지는 리뷰 해서 대단 가리지는 리뷰 해서 니들이 말하는 시대에 와.
So if you have no problem with your physical body or your legs, then you can sit according to 7 meditative posture of Vairocana. So in case if you have problem with your legs or your physical body, then you can sit in any positions yes, you can sit in any positions.
다수스마 슈네다 공제고 자로와 다 공제한테 랑게 쇼라 템바 투병고 군도 세보 슈랑게 쇼라 다 랑게 쇼라 템바 투병고 군도 세보 세 나시베 왼쪽 외센초도 군도 세보 외센초 덴디지 여바 상도로와 이 상도탄에 덴디 템바 투병도 오랑게 딘지 짜이나마 오랑게 딘지 짜이나마 임발라 다 남바 템바 투병고 덴디지 삽다 그 사탄에 근데 자니 군디지 오슈요 상태 그거 들어보고 자니 용수도 반디비 뭐라 좋아 디비 오슈요 상 근데 내가 쳐버렸다고 마슈네.
So after you sit in the positions, sit in the meditative positions, then you start doing meditations. So you first visualize that on top of your crown there sit Buddha Shakyamuni. The aspect is Buddha Shakyamuni. The nature is no difference from one's root guru. And Buddha Shakyamuni is Buddha Shakyamuni is radiating a yellow color. His body is radiating light of yellow light. And then you visualize that on my crown there sits all objects of refuge. So even though as you visualize Buddha Shakyamuni sitting on your crown, right? And then you also visualize that there sits all the objects of refuge on my crown.
That is what that's the thing. As a Joma in that you're not dimba there, you're not dimba in there, do what you know, get that Majiba in a bus to store and do what here. That Majiba in a pay not do a diva in there and do it. Then Majiba in a kanda, Rangipe, Shua Kanda, Happy, Hata and the Lichio, sometimes. The Dabijila Kanda, only la so the Popa Chewa, the Shinji block is so simply so to some shape of some time. Only Bombala, Topa, Tony Bombala, the Topa Chewa, the Shinji block is so swata with his law.
Yeah, if possible, then you recite 7 limb practice or you practice the 7 limb practices. And if it's not possible, then it is okay just to make a request. So you have visualize on top of your crown there sits all objects of refuge, right? So then to Buddha Shakyamuni, then you make requests. Now you make requests that I'm going to meditate on Tonglen practice, and please bless me to develop a realization in Tonglen practice.
That in the Topa Chewa, she loves us so Taudi, that timber to the Omoka, Haja, and it's a Lama, the timber to the timber to Lama, you also got 2 J. But the only in Anichua, Sanji changes by 1 to 2 she would name you. The 2 J, pull it distribute, pull it Disney dream, wasn't do it, pull it Disney, pull it Disney G point around the Shituma, Shune. They can that chair, the Ditanji Tabata. Chebado, only the Topa Chewa, Pato Chibi, Tanchi Tapa, Shesu, not to the Merachi, that's so. That can the wrong Shulma, this Lama Hato, so this is Nanga Lana Divore, this is Nanga, we said that Chiba, this is Nanga, we said that Chiba, my G point, the Rangila, Rangi, the Tanchi, the Cheba, the Tony, Topa Chewa, Pato Chibi, did Tanchi about Tapa, Chesu, at this Merachi. Having
Made such requests, Then the Buddha Shakyamuni, whose nature is no different from a one-sondru guru and is also encompassing all objects of refuge. So Buddha Shakyamuni is very pleased because of our practice of meditating on Tonglen. Then Buddha Shakyamuni is very pleased with us. And then from the holy bodies of Buddha Shakyamuni, 5 colors light rays, 5 colors nectar together with light rays, and then entered into one's body through one's crown. And our negativity, all our negativities and obscurations are totally purified in general, and in particular, those obstacles and negativities that obscure us from developing realizations in Tonglen practice are totally purified. Tonglengi. Then again, from the holy bodies of Buddha, light yellow, yellow color nectars flow into our bodies and fill up our whole body. So, and then at this point, then you think that I have received the blessings. Yeah, I'm blessed to develop realizations in Tonglen practice. Only the Donny Ninja the Shambani go with Mato, Mazo Ninja Gombagi, Los Najigo, the Gentleman, the Kachi, and when Ninja the Shambada, the little lost to go, who you are. Oh, that the Dimaiba, Mazo Tony go there, Tony the Shamba, the Ninja on the Donny, and go with the Mother Shamba, the Ninja Lohaji Gone, then she let only the Tons of Leo Marisigo. Jadi minga juina dia loa. Dengan tambah riba janda dia loa. Tambah macam itu, tambah masih itu sama tu ni jenis tu semua riba guna siapa tadi. Tapi tongle guna kalau dia cawa mar. Jadi riba guna tu yo mar. Yeah, so while visualizing while visualizing Lama deity, then we do Tonglen practice, right? Then when we do Tonglen practice, the cultivations of love and cultivations of compassion is not separate. Yeah, so when we emphasize on love or loving kindness, then we give our roots of virtue and happiness to others. And while emphasizing on compassions, then we take upon oneself the sufferings of others. So when we are doing the Tonglen practice, so we conjoin these loving kindness and compassions together. It's only when we emphasize on love, then we give our roots of virtue and happiness to others. And when we emphasize on compassions, then we take upon oneself the sufferings of others. So they are not separate. Love and loving kindness and compassions are not separate. Are not to be practiced separately in the Tonglen practice. So it must be conjoined together. So when we practice according to 7 cause and effect instructions, then it seems separate because we practice in gradual orders. Because when we train our mind according to the 7 cause and effect instructions, then we practice in gradual order. However, when we practice Tonglen, then we must practice Tonglen conjoining love and compassion together.
That causing also doing Lama they give a Tawani, Abu Kasi Chitare, that Amble Lima the Lojon Honos to Soja, Amble Lea the Rangu in Gosa, that they Kasi Shitarima Shumirwa, Amble Lea the Dudijina, the Rangu, the Shito Dunga, New York, and then Adu Tismu Show, Sunny Dumi, New York, the Tata Tismu Show, Sarwa, that Dawa Jema, Dawa dinner of Miwasho, that Lord Jema, the Lord dinner of Miwasho, that Jiwa Jema. Jiwa dinner was the Miwasho, that the Digi doing the Tambosu doing Liana, a low jump, yes, or they Kumbaya Bush. And what they Kumbaya Bush, Jay Jela, they hear any decade, Sijakapa, Lopon, Car, Shua, that did because she said that, and she knew.
And so regarding the Tonglen practice, then we take the sufferings, we take the sufferings, right, and we give the roots of virtue and happiness to others. So regarding taking sufferings of others, I have already mentioned, so I will not explain it again. So in brief, when we practice taking suffering, then we must take the sufferings of oneself first. So this is how we practice in gradual order. So we first practice taking the sufferings of oneself. After we practice in this way and we have developed such realizations, then we have developed such habituations, then only we extend these attitudes towards others or in relation to others, then only we start to take sufferings of others. So first, one must take sufferings of oneself, habituate our mind by taking the sufferings of oneself. So this I have already explained. How to take this sufferings of afternoon, then upon or bring it to the morning. So I experience the sufferings of the afternoon. So I take the sufferings of afternoon sufferings upon morning and experience in the morning, and then I take tomorrow sufferings upon today and experience today, and I take next month sufferings upon this month, and then I experienced this month, and I take next year's sufferings upon this year, and I experience this year, and I take sufferings of next life, and upon this life, and experience in this life. So after you become habituated with taking oneself suffering, then only you start to take this. Then only you take the sufferings of others.
Oh, that is that use lochi, Yahoo, Lokoma, Yahoo, Chungsadi. That day, that he sent you to that Dunga Lian. That he sent you not Chansa Maniba. Toma been around with Cindy Madi. Toma around with Cindy Madi, Hada, Yamtabada, that Dunga Yamtaba. Then the Mal Ninja, Kanda, Ninja Jana, Tamba Shamba, the Ninja shoot up all Tony. That Madi, they were the Dendeta, Dunga the Tandi, Shamba Ninja, the shoot chamber, Nadewa. Issue Chambongan, Toma, my dead Roa, Rangi, Lung, Ya, Sumubata, Rangi, Sumubata, Takanda, Nondo, that Mati Jijua, Mati Jiji, that Debata, doing a country, tragic, dry shower, even Nali, Chenekanda, my Nabu Yambani Martin, my Nabu Yambani Martin, Rangi Lung with Sutande, Rangi Nabu Yambani Yashuba, Rangi Nabu Yambani Yashuba,
Yuba nature.
Oh, my Yambani Martin. Or Rangi Yambani Yata. Rangi Yambani Yata. Yamba Jibaro. My ear in Matanwa. Or my ear in Matanwa. Kanda, dear Roa, my Nabu Yen, Matan, Rangi, looks down the Nabu Yen, Rangi Nabu Yen, Rangi Yen, Shune, there Kanda Nigi, the Kanda Jinzi de Lama. Kisa Jinzi the Talo so that Samuel Rossos are the lead with Chimua, Rang the Nigi Jinzilla, Rang the Nigi the Jinzi to the mark, one that Jinzi de Pata, and now she loves us. the song down this row. That might be doing the chilling. Look, young about that.
Yeah, after one have become habituated with taking one's own suffering, then you practice taking suffering of others. So when you first practice taking sufferings of others, you do not practice it in relation to all sentient beings. You should first start with taking sufferings of mothers of this life. So then you think about the sufferings that mothers of this life is experiencing, and she is in a very wretched state, and he is oppressed by those great sufferings. So then you generate compassions strongly in your mind, wishing to free your mothers of this life from the sufferings. So while while generating these strong compassions, then you start to take the sufferings of mothers of this life, then through upon our breathing. So you think that you think that all those negativities and obscurations in the mind stream of mothers of this life then come out from her right nostril, and then you breathe in. So when you inhale, then you inhale the negativities and obscurations of mothers of this life through your left nostrils, come out from right nostrils of mother, and you breathe in the negativities and obscurations through your left nostrils, and then it enters your body and pile it on the self-cherishing, and instantly that self-cherishing is destroyed. So you do these visualizations, taking the sufferings upon your breathing breath, upon your breath.
That kind of market doing it back on that's really kind of Suzuki Ningi Chito kind of changing it to the point, changing the tower lost and never change. Yeah, Matic, the one that doing it, can't that trust, the gargle, that kind of take us. That Matic doing it, can't that trust, the gargle, yes.
So having visualized that the negativities and obscurations of mother has entered your body and piled it on the self-cherishing at one's heart and instantly get destroyed, then you generate delight, thinking that the mothers of this life is totally free from suffering and the causes of suffering.
That is a pattern, they get a pattern. That pattern, Rangi, Nabuyene, pattern, Nabuyene, Tankua, or Nabuyene, Gardanza, that loom, stung be balloon than Yamdo, pattern, loom, Yamdo, the Rangi, they get tangy. You are the gets a tangy, the war. They get tangy, work a big number, pass one sometime, work a big number, pa, as soon as the Mati, Nabuyan by the shooter, Nabuyan by the shooter, the Mati. They were the tangy that they were just the garden. Matic no be by the sure. No be by the shine. They can't Matic de water. They just tangy that they were tangy that they were just the garden.
Yeah, so I forgot to mention one thing, that when you visualize the negativities and obscuration that comes out from the mother, then you visualize those negativities and obscurations in black form. So it's in black color. So in black aspects or in black form, then come out from the mother's nostril and then enter into your body. So you visualize those negativities and obscurations in black aspect or black form. Then after we have done the taking part, then now we do giving. So when we give, then we give happiness and roots of virtue to our mothers of this life. So again, when you give your roots of virtue and happiness to your mothers of this life in visualization, then it comes out from your right nostril. It comes out from your right nostrils in white form or white aspects. So when you exhale, then it comes out, the roots of virtue and happiness of oneself, then come out together with the breathing. So as when you exhale or together with your exhalation, then one's roots of virtue and happiness come out in the wide aspect or wide form, and then enter your mothers of this life body. Then and enter your body of your mother's body through her left nostrils. So enter her mother's body through her left nostrils, and then you visualize that mothers of this life is endowed with happiness and the causes of happiness. So basically, you practice Tonglen. Practice Tonglen in this order. You make requests and then you practice Tonglen. Then, so in this order, then similarly, when after you have done visualization in relation to mothers of this life, then you practice Tonglen in relation to father, friends, relatives. So before you practice Tonglen in relation to father, friends, or relatives, then again you make requests to Lama deity on top of your crown. So and then request Lama deity to bless me to develop realization in Tonglen practice, and then from his holy body, the Buddha Shakyamuni holy bodies, and then five colored nectar and light rays enter one's body, and then one's negativities and obscurations are totally purified. In particular, the obstacles that obscure oneself from developing realization in Tonglen practice are totally purified. So basically, just now the making request part. So this you repeat before you visualize in relation to father, friends, relatives, then strangers and enemies. So you repeat in this order. So when you, after you practice Tonglen in this order repeatedly, then your mind become habituated with this practice. Then you can again visualize your body your resources or objects of enjoyments and all your roots of virtue in a white aspect, in a white form or white light. So in a white aspect, and then you give it to all sentient beings equaling to the expanse of sky. So you give all your roots of virtue happiness to all sentient beings equaling the extent of sky. And then in one instant, so simultaneously, you give all your roots of virtue happiness to all sentient beings equaling to the sky. And then at the same time, and then also simultaneously, you take sufferings of all sentient beings equaling to the extent of sky and ripen upon oneself. And then you visualize that all sentient beings are free from negativities and obscurations and endowed with roots of virtue and happiness, and all sentient beings are enlightened. So you visualize that all sentient beings have become enlightened. Yeah, so this solemn practice, we can practice it in relation not only to the inhabitants. So inhabitants is sentient beings or beings. So not only we can practice this in relation to inhabitants or sentient beings, such as those 6 types of migratory beings. So hell beings and hungry ghost beings, etc. So we can also practice this in relation to each of the 6 types of migratory beings. So in the category of inhabitants or beings, then we can also practice this Tonglen especially in relation to 6 types of migratory beings. So each of sentience of each realms, and you practice Tonglen in relation to them. Then, and at the end of the Tonglen, at the end of the visualizations, then you visualize that those sentient beings have become enlightened. So on top of that, we can also practice Tonglen in relation to the world. We can also practice Tonglen in relation to the world, or the vessel or the world itself. So we take all the faults of the world, and then ripen upon oneself, and we give our roots of virtue and of the 3 times, and we give it to the world, and then the world transform into the pure land. So you visualize that you take upon all the faults of the world upon oneself, and you give all your roots of virtue of the 3 times to the world, and the world transform into the pure land.
That is a Tonglen. Lama Chabana, chance de Yamushu. Then Juicy Lama to Jim Martin, Mali that Dalam, and Loki did at the machine. See, not what did Nanji Tonglen will see the Tanga Sashi, the Tonglen Bona, Yamushu. Oh, Sashi. Yan Tanga cheese, Sachino Yaton is Yego. That Shinjilo Loki did at the machine. And was sitting down while Takatu Jones, Nadi Lama Hazo, Lansa, Satayala, Devona, Lama Dengata in a degree, Lama denga maine, that Lama Tanjirang show la the
Lama denga.
Lama denga, Stanajing as a Jandu, Jayus Lama denga, Tawa. At the Tina, Marina Keo Mari, that Kanda, Lama Hasso Go, Lama Hasso. That Lama Hasso, that Debochi Bojana, Lama Hasso Naji, Pui Chale, Dizinanga, we say that you have Jipo, the Rangi, Sinchi, Tanji leader Sena Shu, Rangi Sinchi leader Sena Shu, they Kanda, Tony Topachi, Gay Jan. Tony Topa Chepaji Jesu, Sarangi Sinja Tangela, Tony Topa Chepaji Jesu, Rangi Sinja Tanji, Tony Topa Jola, Gate Tanjipa, Asu, to Sumebaji, they are Toma, Lemba Tomba, to student to go to Rua, Tamushinji Los, Tamusua Taiwa, she dinner Gisela Doki did a number Shinji Law, the Shinji Law, so the Masua Tawudua, or Shinji Law, Shinji Law, Sua Tawdi, let the Digi, this is also. Lama Hasso Kulema Dizinanga G. Rangi Sinchi Tanji, Lisela should be. They can Tony Topa Jola, Gay Tanchepa, Aso, Samuel. Tony Topa Chepa, Rangi Sinchi Tanjila, Tony Jula, Tony Topa Chepa, Jesu Samba. Jesamba Tendicene, they are Tony Go, Anja Tony Go. Let the other Dema say Anja, and just sort of they are pushing your sim that day. The Mamoya Manaji told it, did go.
So in Lama Chopa, LC 95, this verse of one verse of 5 lines, and it says, "And thus, perfect, pure, compassionate Guru, I seek a blessings that all negative karmas, obscurations, and sufferings of mother transmigratory beings may without exception ripen upon me right now, and that by giving my happiness and virtue to others, all transmigratory beings may experience happiness." So this is very good to recite this verse together with Tonglen meditations. So and here it says Chingi Lop, right? So Chingi Lop means to please bless me, or I seek your blessings. So here English is here, so Tibetan is here, Chingi Lop. So basically, you first you recite this verse, and then this verse contains the making requests of seeking for blessings, right? So after you recite this verse, then you do one-time Tonglen practice. So then you visualize the Lama's deity on your crown, and then from his body, 5 colored light rays, nectar flow down and enter one's body, not only oneself and also all sentient beings. So when you and all sentient beings and enter the body and mind of oneself and all sentient beings and fill up the whole body, and then you visualize that the negativities and obscurations in general, and in particular the obstacles that obscure oneself and all sentient beings from developing realization in Tonglen practice, are totally purified, and oneself and all sentient beings have developed the special realization in Tonglen practice in one's mind stream. So you visualize in this way, then you repeat the same order. So you recite this verse, and then you do the Tonglen practice. So it's very good to conjoin these recitations of this verse together with Tonglen practice.
Tsongkhapa senjila kanga kande tende tune jeda tang that is that rin je ta sa da kila this not je do ta je nga so tone ko la mi se tan jinda khashi ma so le sa yo ma ro ti ji je ba china da je ma u ba nga so tone so ti bo je tu ba ina da chang so dan da na shin la ba che ba si ta ba ya si nda shi so ta shi ga di dan da ha ko na da je nga so ma hele ji ti jo wa ji ro da dan da ti se re ma so ये drink के लिए शाला मत था
Yeah, so this is how we meditate on Tonglen. So we give our body, our possessions, our objects of enjoyment, resources, our roots of virtue of the 3 times to sentient beings. So in fact, if we this is a brief explanations on how to practice Tonglen. If we were to explain it in an extensive manner, so it will take few classes, it will take a few classes to explain on how to do meditations on Tonglen. So it's very important. So in brief, it's very important to conjoin these recitations of these verse with Tonglen practice. So I will stop here because as a Ken is as a coughing, right?
Ken is coughing now. And you just stop here. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, because of my coughing, then so you should stop.
Yeah. Also, it's our Kanga. Chitemba Jabatan, Roa, they were doing it. Such a Tsongkhapa DG of a leadership. Chitemba Jabatan, Roa, they were. Akanda, since it's selling this in a several tournaments of department, Sanji community to her. Then Zani de la Pashti.
And so we conclude with dedication. We dedicate the roots of virtue accumulated especially through these Lama discussions. So to the flourishings of Buddha Dharma, and we also dedicate these roots of virtue for all sentient beings to experience excellent happiness. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue to the world peace, and may excellent happiness prevail the world. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue to all sentient beings. Those sentient beings that includes those sentient beings that have already passed away. So may their negativities and of sufferings be pacified immediately, and may they quickly achieve the state of enlightenment.
Doggy, Junior,
Abe Gewali, Tenang Roa, Kula Kamben, Nakeba, Jizu, Losan, Ramai, Timeni, Mori, Dose, Jo, Janju, Senjo, Rimboje, Maje, Bana, Keguji, Keba, Yama, Mibaya, Kondo, Bera, Jo, Jambe, Bawe, Jida, Kimba, Dangudo, Sambo, de Andijin, de Dakuki, Jizu, Daloje, Kiwa, Dida, Tamje, Rado, Rimboje, Maje, Bana, Keguji, Keba, Yama, Mibaya, Kondo, Bera, Jo, Rimni, Tawa, Boji, Maje, Bana, Kikuji, Rame, Mayan, Gone, Kondo, Bewa, Jo, Jajan, Jabe, Kewe, Zingyo, Pewe, Kuzu, Chosun, Kue, Leme, Dudu, Bandazo, Duje, Kendo, Shakte, Jo, Jesu, Doju, Bela, Cheche, Sense, Kanche, Telugan, Chana, Bemo, Tenzing, Yasola, Soa, Beso, Shende, Jo, Kade, Bende, Maleva, Kale, Jome, Same, Lishino, Kalim, Sume, Tenzing, Yasola, Soa, Beso, Duje, Jo, Rawe, Kore, Shingan, Dependant, Dewa, Malu, Jumene, Jere, Sewa, Tenzing, Yaso, Shape, City, Pado, Dendo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Geshe-la, Ken,
Thank you.
Joe.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Thank you very much, Geshe-la.